Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens mistake regular Joe Schmoes as people working, and the stories are wild. And in today's episode, Karens are at it again, and one OP tells a story of how a random woman gave her some free money while she was out on a walk. And also, I can't believe I'm saying this, but if you're listening to this particular voice and these stories and it's not on the Dark Fluff channel, well, it should only be on the Dark Fluff channel. If you know, you know. But yeah, try not to shake your heads too hard at these stories today. Let's dive in. So it happened about 9 years ago. I'm gonna preface this by saying that I don't know for sure if the woman thought I worked there or just randomly chose me, but I think it fits. The day this happened, I was with a friend of mine shopping for a few things for her upcoming wedding. We were mainly looking for clothes for her honeymoon. Anyways, we're in the women's clothing department of a large department store, poking around looking at summer dresses. This is when an older woman came in, maybe late 50s or early 60s, who I'll call crazy. She was looking at the racks close to us. My friend Alex and I were a few racks apart, and I was closer to crazy. She was furiously flipping through the dresses and muttering gibberish to herself. Something about her son, married, it wasn't fair or something, and I don't know what else. I'm trying to catch Alex's attention, but she was looking away from me. This is when Crazy pulls a few items and she disappears into the dressing room. I told Alex what was up and to maybe avoid that woman as she was clearly upset and she was getting more and more agitated. In mid-sentence though, out she comes. The woman's wearing a sundress and she needed help getting it zipped. The woman storms up to me, turns around, and she presents her back and she starts screaming at me saying, "Zip it! I can't believe I have to do this. Just zip it, zip it, zip it, zip it." Meanwhile, I'm fumbling with the zipper as the tab disappeared for a second, and she was making me very nervous. The woman's getting louder though. She's screaming at me even harder saying, "Zip it, you useless girl. Why can't you just zip it? Zip it." I get the tab, but for the life of me, I can't get the dress to close. She was a heavier woman, and the edges of the dress were about an inch apart. I think the dress was too small for her. I just kept telling her I couldn't get it to go, but I was trying. All the while, she's bouncing around, freaking out, and by this point, I should have walked away. What I needed was another set of hands. That's when I look at Alex and I ask her for help. Anything to get this crazy woman away from us. But before I could even start to ask, this woman storms over to Alex and she presents her back screaming, "You zip it!" Now, poor Alex isn't as comfortable around people as I am, but bless her, she tried. I walk over to try and help, and the two of us couldn't get it. It was hopeless. We drop our hands, and I tried to explain that she might need another size. I don't even know if she heard me, but she starts freaking out, screaming all kinds of stuff. And with a loud screech, she says, "Everyone is so useless. I can't do this. I can't deal with you people." She then storms away, flinging her arms out. The woman's arm catches a rack of clothes, and she sent several dozens of dresses and their hangers flying right at my face. Luckily, I throw my arm up and I protected my face. I had a shirt on my shoulder and a hanger caught in my buttons. The rack fell over and she went screeching like a banshee towards the customer service counter, where a young woman behind the desk was trying in vain to help a family that couldn't speak English. Alex and I didn't stick around. We took off half running, half low crouching away, and we hid in the next department. We're ducked down in housewares, and we saw this poor family that doesn't speak a word of English trying to help her into this damn dress and her screaming for a manager. We were laughing and so bewildered. We're looking at each other saying, "Oh my goodness, what the F is happening?" This was the main topic of discussion with friends and family over the next several days. Alex even wanted me to zip up her wedding dress on her special day, just so she could say it again and calm her nerves. A couple of bridesmaids didn't get the joke, so we got to tell it all over again. And to this day, I can text or call Alex and I'll just say, "Zip it," and she'll burst out laughing. Good times. What a wild encounter that was, right? I just love how this whole thing became a running joke for over a decade with OP and her friend. But at the same time, I can't help but to feel bad for that woman, like clearly she was having some sort of a mental breakdown or something that day. And hopefully, she ended up getting her dress that day, but what a panicky moment for everyone involved. And guys, this next OP has another wild encounter. So this happened sometime last year, so the conversation is a bit paraphrased. I work for an unarmed security company, complete with uniform and badge. We're not allowed to have weapons, but we can defend ourselves or detain people for police. I'm also not one for confrontation, but I'm a large, scary-looking guy. I'm over 6 feet, and I look like a former linebacker. Usually, if I stop at the store after work, I'll take off my uniform, but that day was chilly, so I wore it into the store. I wasn't planning on buying anything, just checking prices for a birthday gift for my wife, so I didn't have a cart or basket. This is when I notice a young woman, early 20s or younger I would guess. She came into my aisle. The woman looks scared and she's looking around, kind of panicked. She sees me and she makes a beeline for me and she says, "Hey, can you walk me to my car? Some creepy guy's following me and he won't stop." Now, this isn't the first time I've gotten this request, and I absolutely never say no if a woman comes to me with a request like this. So I say, yes, of course. We start heading to the front of the store, but halfway there, this guy pops out in front of us and he starts talking to her. He's saying over and over again that she forgot to give him her number. I just step between them and I tell him that she doesn't appreciate him following her, and he'll have to be removed from the store if he persists. Now obviously I don't work there, but he doesn't know that. He responds and he says this is his girlfriend, they're just having a little fight, everything's okay. Meanwhile, she's shaking her head with every word he speaks, and right about now she's looking terrified. This is when I tell him it's time for him to leave. And the guy flips out. He starts screaming at me saying she's his girlfriend. It takes all of 10 seconds for a bunch of people to notice, including one employee who pulls out a radio, and he starts talking to someone. As the guy's yelling at me, I keep myself firmly between him and the woman, and I repeat that he needs to leave in a calm voice. I figure the manager would be by soon enough, so I wasn't overly worried. And sure enough, a manager and the store security come. They end up restraining him and contacting police. All the while, the guy keeps alternating between screaming and cursing at me and the employees and begging this young woman to please tell them he's her boyfriend so he won't get in trouble. And I do want to note that I overheard while she was talking to store security that she had never even seen this guy before. As we walk to her car, I explain that I was just shopping and I don't work there. We had a good laugh over that misunderstanding. She was very grateful that I helped her regardless. Yeah, I think we can all agree, way to go OP for stepping up and helping this young lady. But guys, what a creep, right? Like you expect us to believe that you're her boyfriend, but you're also harassing her for her phone number? Yeah, that makes sense. Again, kudos to OP for stepping up and never turning down anyone with that kind of request. The world needs more gentlemen like him. This story took place well over a decade ago. I'm 17 years old at the time, and I'm working as a counselor for a summer day camp run by the city. We take kids on weekly field trips, and on this day, we're visiting an all-time favorite, Chuck E. Cheese. All the counselors love this place because it's fairly easy to keep all 50 kids contained and within eyesight. Plus, the city provided us with money to buy enough pizza for all the kids and counselors, which meant free lunch. We walk in the front door, get our hands stamped, and I seat my group in the party area so they can be entertained by animatronic Chucky, while I go to the soda fountain to get their drinks. I fill up about 9 cups and then bear hug them and waddle back towards where the kids are seated. I make it halfway before I feel a sudden jerk on my shirt from behind, causing me to spill orange soda and Dr. Pepper all over myself. I turn around to find this extremely angry woman. She's holding a crying toddler by the hand, and she says to me, "Excuse me, but that game just stole my son's tokens." I respond, sorry." The angry mom then grabs me by the sleeve and she drags me to the game, and she says, "Someone needs to fix this. It owes him 3 tickets, so do something." I just respond, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't work here." She then says, "Then why are you wearing a staff shirt?" Now, she is right, I'm wearing a staff shirt. However, it clearly says Name of City Summer Camp Staff on the back. The shirt's also neon green, and it looks nothing like the red polos and black visors that the Chuck E. Cheese staff wears. There was around 8 other counselors also wearing the same shirt, as well as 50 kids nearby with their bright green camper shirts. We're clearly an outside group visiting on a field trip. I apologize for the misunderstanding again, and I tell her I'm here with the daycare, and then continue my awkward waddle towards my kids' table. The woman just rolls her eyes and she storms away. I'm a bit annoyed that I'm now covered in soda, but I figure the woman's just stressed from being surrounded by a ton of screaming kids, and she just got mixed up when looking for a staff member. I shrug it off and I continue retrieving drinks and pizza for my kids. They get their food and everything's fine. A few minutes later, the person assigned to dance around in the mouse suit comes strutting out from behind the stage and begins dancing to a Kidz Bop version of some pop song. He's instantly swarmed by the entire summer camp. Kids are crawling on him, pulling on his shirt, some little kids trying to get above him on the stage so he can pull his head off. And that's when I see her. This angry mom has now decided that the appropriate person to confront about the ticket issue is Chucky himself. In her simple mind, instead of looking for a regular staff member, she's skipping the entire chain of command and she's going straight to the CEO. Surely he won't tolerate kids having their tickets stolen in his establishment. She's closing in on him shouting, excuse me, Chucky," while pushing my kids to the side. She manages to get 5 feet away from him and she starts waving her hands frantically. She's saying, "One of your games is broken." She's shouting over the music and the screaming kids, but Chucky clearly doesn't give a crap. He doesn't even see her. He's trying to survive the wave of oncoming kids. At this point, Karen's had enough. She snatches her kid by the arm and turns away, stomping her feet so Chucky can see how visibly angry she is with his customer service. She then screams and says, "We're never coming back here again." I guess I should also mention that she left an entire uneaten pizza on their table when she stormed out. But somehow, the loss of 3 tickets with a total value of about 2 cents when exchanging for prizes was enough to ruin her entire day. So this happened like a little while ago and I thought I'd share. The setup is I live in the city center of Toronto's Brooklyn in a mixed economic neighborhood. One street has $1,000,000 homes and the other street is like crack houses, repeat. So that means we have a lot of different lifestyles, from kids going to $20,000 a year private school to single-parent homes, lawyers, pilots, mob bosses, along with adult workers on the corners at 3 a.m., if you know what I mean. So at the time, my son was going through the I can't fall asleep if I'm not in my stroller going for a walk in the middle of winter in Canada phase. The city where I live doesn't get a lot of snow. This year, we had 2 months worth. Last year, 1 month's worth. But every few years, we do get hit hard, and of course it had to be this year. It's about 9:30 going on 10 o'clock. I'm layered beyond belief, including my cloak that's very flowy and has a Grim Reaper-style hood. I'm bent over trying to push the stroller and looking like one of those garbage dump goblins from Labyrinth. I'm walking up the expensive, nice street next to mine when this van pulls out of a driveway on the other side of the boulevard. A woman passes me, but I do notice that she stops not too far after passing. She backs up her van and I see her rolling down her window. I figure the woman's lost or something. I peer into the window to see what's up, and the following on her part was spoken in a sickly sweet voice, and me in a super confused, distrusting tone. The lady says to me, "Hi, how are you this evening?" I respond, "Good, how are you?" She then says, "I'm good. The snow's insane, is it not? It must be so hard to be out here right now. Your poor child." I just respond, "Yeah." She then goes on and says, "And you're out here in it with your baby. That must be super hard." I respond, "Yes, it can be." She then shakes her head and she tisks at me saying, "It's so sad that you have to live this way. Listen, can I give you something?" Now, my mind immediately thinks that she's gonna hand me a Jesus Saves flyer or something. She holds out her hand with a piece of paper, and I take it. She then says, "I really hope you find a nice warm place tonight. It's already so hard out here, and I can't believe you're doing it with a child. It can be so hard as a young single mother and having to do this. I hope things improve for you, dear. I really do. You don't have to do what you're doing." She then drives off, and I look at what she gave me, and the lady slipped me a $50 bill. I get home, and my baby's sleeping, and I go to hubby. I tell him what happened, super confused and bewildered, thinking that this lady must be off her rocker or something. He then looks at me like I'm an idiot and he says, "Honey, she thought you were homeless and probably thought you worked the streets." Well, I'm not either of those, but I did get $50 out of it, so score. Hey, at least we know the van lady has a good heart, right? And guys, gotta love the fact that she was so quick to make those wild assumptions and she thought OP was a homeless, single mom streetwalker. Whatever the case though, that encounter left OP $50 richer than they were before, and free money is always nice. I used to work at a major theme park with roller coasters, theme rides, and whatnot, but was also attached to their own water park. I myself used to work in the water park, but I quit 4 to 5 years before this happened. Being a previous employee, I still had friends in management who work there, and I can get in for free whenever I wanted. We're approaching 4 p.m. on a nice hot afternoon, and some clouds start to roll in. There's thunder sounding in the distance, and all lifeguards blow their whistles, and they begin to shut down all the rides. I had been relaxing in one of the cabanas that day, but little did I realize that crazy Karen mistook me for an active employee, basically just because I was in the cabana next to hers. Keep in mind that Karen and her family had been at the water park for 6 to 7 hours at this point, and they had seen me all day there relaxing. Karen does a double finger snap and she says, "Excuse me, my kids say that the lifeguards won't let them onto the slides anymore, so you need to fix this." I tell her, "I'm pretty sure they do this every time a storm comes. You're not allowed." She then interrupts and says, "What do you mean, not allowed? It's not even raining yet." I respond, "They do it for guest safety." She then says, "Listen, I paid good money for this cabana today, and I demand you reopen the park for my kids to go on those rides. I don't see any danger." At this point, being a previous employee, I did try to be cordial about the situation and diffuse it so nobody would have to handle this greaseball of a human being. So I say to Karen, "Ma'am, that's not anything I can control. That's policy set in place by the management based upon the weather." She then says, "This is insane. We barely got to use our cabana or the water park, and now we can't even go on the slides. This is a joke. You're a joke. I don't even know why we come here." Right about now, I just tell her, "You're more than welcome to wait out the thunderstorm in the main park, but they do shut down the water park and all major attractions during these times for guest safety because, you know, the lightning." She just screams from my manager at this point, and this is where my patience had run out. Time to cut this conversation short and move on with my life. I tell Karen, in case you didn't notice, I've been in this cabana next to you for the past 5 hours. Does it look like I work here? I point at my crazy beach shorts and flip-flops. Karen just says to me, I don't care what you say, now who is your manager? Right about now, I'd given up with trying to reason with her. I just pack up all my stuff and I left her behind, shouting into the wind as the thunderstorm rolls in. I asked my buddy what happened after I left, and apparently she got the managers involved. She continued to rant and rave about how stupid shutting things down was and demanded a full refund for her day. She ends up getting a temporary ban for throwing a tantrum and insulting staff. And to think, all of this happened because the last 2 hours of the water park was shut down due to, I don't know, lightning at the water park. Listen, maybe Karen should have paid a little more attention in science class, don't you think? Like, it's just baffling how she chooses fun over her family's safety. And this person comments, I see no problem with this at all. If she wants to go in, they should let her go in. It's just natural selection at work, cleaning out the gene pool of people who shouldn't be reproducing anyway. And this person says, I worked as a lifeguard and people would complain all the time when we cleared the pool because of thunder, saying, it's just thunder. Like, yeah, you need lightning in the area to make thunder. Besides that, the guard chairs are metal. The only good thing about one of the pools I worked at was we were next to a golf course that had lightning alarms. People would shut up once they heard those alarms going crazy. This story is potentially one of the scariest encounters I've had as a child, and I've never seen a more appropriate place to tell it. I was somewhere between 11 and 12 years old, and I still had a few more years before I'd reach the legal working age in my country, which is Canada. I was at IKEA with my dad, shopping for a new bed for my sister. I was dutifully fooling around in the store, aka the world's greatest play place, in case you never went to IKEA as a kid. While I was waiting for my dad to go find something, and that's when a woman interrupted me. She says to me, "Excuse me." The woman sounded like she didn't care at all whether she was excused. She then says, "Do you know where the rugs are?" I respond, "Oh, no, I'm sorry." I was a nervous child, and I could barely remember the last time I'd been to IKEA, and certainly I hadn't been paying attention to where the rugs were back then. I say to her, "Maybe you can ask someone else." She then says, "No, I'm asking you. You work here, so you have to know where everything is. That's your job." She was very much in my personal space at this point. She's pointing, yelling, and I was torn between being very, very afraid of her and very, very confused. I was fairly sure that it was obvious I wasn't an adult because I'm 11 years old. I hadn't gone through puberty yet. Foolishly, I thought if I could just correct her, she would leave me alone. I told her, "But I don't work here." He then says, "Yes, you do. I saw you." And to this day, I can only imagine that something about my playing made her think I was working. It's the only thing I can think of. I was playing around with the computer that I think might have actually been for employees, but still, I wasn't even wearing a blue shirt. The woman just tells me that's no excuse. You have to know where everything is, so tell me where the rugs are. I was out of options at this point. Thankfully, I remembered that IKEA has a linear layout. Since there were only 2 doors in the room and I hadn't seen any rugs on my journey there, I just pointed to the one I hadn't come from. I said, maybe they're over that way." My thinking was, at the very least, she would go off looking and I wouldn't have to deal with her anymore, or so I thought. The woman screams, "No, I was just there. I was just down there and I saw no rugs, so they aren't there. Tell me where they are." Now, I couldn't even suggest she go in the other direction because then she starts swearing at me in a combination of French and English, and I couldn't get a word in edgewise. She called me incompetent or something, and then threw in a few curse words I did recognize. Some words that I knew I should be very, very offended by. But mostly, I was just scared of her. It was the first time I'd ever had any kind of experience like this, and I had no idea what to say to get her to leave me alone. The store was pretty empty, and I didn't know exactly where my dad went. Thankfully, my dad came back just a couple of moments later. I wish I could write up a transcript of his heroic rescue, but I don't remember it at all. I just know they argued for a bit, and my dad shouted something about her leaving me alone and me being a child. Eventually, she left in a giant huff without so much as an apology. I didn't care though, I was just glad she was gone, and there was no way that any half-hearted apology would have made it perfectly fine for her to treat me the way she did. That would not have meant anything. We didn't split up again the rest of the shopping trip. That was my I don't work here experience, and I hope it was entertaining at the least. When I remember it, I'm usually baffled how someone thinking tiny baby me was an employed adult. But in the moment, it was genuinely terrifying. Yeah, I don't argue that at all. And being an 11-year-old, getting screamed at by any one adult is freaking terrifying. Let's hope that woman never found the rug she was looking for and she remains rugless to this very day. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitledpeople episode, where people are telling stories about their psycho Karen coworkers. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.